Hello, everyone. Thanks so much for joining. We're going to get started here in just about 1 minute, but we'll give everyone a few seconds to get logged in and situated. All right, we're going to go ahead and get started here. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm Chelsea Treseder with Pivot Hearing, and I have the pleasure of being joined by David Lisko. Today, we're going to talk about what scares you, audiology's nightmares, and how we think you can still sleep peacefully at night. Like I said, I'm really pleased to be joined by David this morning. I'll tell you just a little bit about David. Over the past 20 years, he's worked as an audiologist in clinical settings. He's worked as a manufacturer rep. He's held exec positions with a number of hearing aid manufacturers, with Alpaca, as well as with Cognivue. And he's served as a consultant on our team for the last 2.5 years. Prior to audiology, David made a living as a musician, actually, and his band, the Infidels, have been inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. He's also a member of Mensa and an avid Cleveland Cavaliers fan. So really excited to have him here today. I think you all are really going to enjoy him. Just a little bit of housekeeping. As we go through the presentation, if you have any questions, feel free to put those in the Q&A box at the bottom of the Zoom interface, and we'll take a look at those. And if you're having technical problems, I'll try to help you while he's speaking. And if there are questions that involve more of a response, we'll make sure to leave some time for those at the end. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to David.
Thank you, Chelsea. I appreciate it. Hi, everybody. Happy to be here, and it's Halloween, so let's talk about things that are kind of scary. But it's also not just Halloween; it's NBA beginning. So go Cavs! First game's tonight. All right, so just to have a little bit of fun, and you could add this to the chat box. And they're going to be prizes. So, what do you think are the top 10 things people fear the most? So, like, don't cheat, don't Google it now. But write down some things that you think might be in that top 10 list. I'll give you like 30 seconds. Write some things down. You could put it in the chat. You could write it down on our system. And whoever gets the most correct, we'll send a $10 Starbucks gift card to you. So if it's a tie, then you both win. But unless everybody ties, well, then we'll have to talk about it. But so take a few seconds. What do you think are the top 10 things in the world that people fear the most? All right, hopefully you've started your list and we'll get rolling. Okay, in order. Now, you don't have to have it in order, but in order, thunder and lightning. I mean, maybe children were asked the question pulled. I don't know, because that doesn't seem that scary to me. But number 10, I don't want to make light of anyone's fears because only one of my fears is on this list. Number 2, dogs. Love my dog, but dogs can be scary to people. Number 8, mice and rats. Bing, rats, one of mine for sure. So far there's 3. Hopefully you've got at least one of those on your list. Number 7, enclosed spaces. Get it. Number 6, spiders and insects. Yep, lots of people fear that. Number 5, flying. So there still is definitely a fear of flying. Number 4, snakes. Yep, get it. Number 3, going to the dentist. Number 2, heights. And the number 1 thing people fear the most, if you pulled me only, my answer would be clowns. It did not make the list. The number 1 thing people are most afraid of, public speaking. I've never had that fear, so I'm happy to be here and to talk to you about these things today. So hopefully you did well. Hopefully you submitted some answers, and hopefully you won a Starbucks gift card. So let's talk about audiology. What keeps you up at night? So And Siri just started talking to me from the other room. That's kind of scaring me. What keeps us up at night as audiologists? So there was a survey of many, many clinicians throughout the country, and these were the top 10 things that is concerning to clinicians today, to audiologists, to private practice owners, what's kind of like been burdensome in our field. So number 10, a staff member wants more money than the clinic can afford to pay. So as a Cavaliers fan, yes, LeBron to me will always be a Cav. But here's the reason I show this picture. On the left of the screen, LeBron James, of course. On the right, Dylan Windler. Maybe some of you have heard of Dylan Windler. Most of you probably haven't, but I bet you've all heard of LeBron James. They are both NBA players. Should they be paid the same? Of course not. LeBron's one of the greatest players to ever live. Dylan Windler, while being one of the 300 best players in the world, no one's ever heard of the guy. Why am I talking about this? Well, you can preemptively set this up for future and for moving forward. And what I mean by that, LeBron James is paid as well as he is because he performs. He brings in revenue. He scores X amount of points. It's in his contract. If you average 30 points a game, you get a bonus of X. If you play 70 of the 82 games, you get a bonus of whatever it may be. So if you have a staff member who comes to you and they want more money, in the working world, there's this idea that time equals I want to be paid more, but it really should be performance equals I want to be paid more. So what I would suggest, start coming up with KPIs, whatever that may be. If you help, and I'm making these numbers up, if you help 50 patients throughout the year, you get a bonus of X. If your help rate is over 50%, you get a bonus of Y. So set those things up early on, and it does a couple of things. First thing it will do, when someone comes to you, hey, I want to get a raise. Oh man, I don't know if I can afford it. It becomes a bit combative and separate. But this way you can say, look, I want you to make all the money in the world, because if you're successful, we're successful, like a basketball team. So let's look at some key productivity indicators, KPIs, where if you hit these marks, you will make more money, because now you're bringing value to the practice, and I'm happy to share that value with you. But if you go into it and you don't have any idea of like, what are you bringing? Are you worth it? Can I afford to lose you? Start today of figuring out where can bonuses happen and how can someone make more money. If they're making your clinic more profitable, then it doesn't hurt you to pay them more because you're still coming out further ahead. So the suggestion here, turn your employees into LeBron. Up front, if you're hiring somebody or if you're negotiating a contract, have all those things listed in the contract so that they know, hey, I'm on track to make an extra 10 grand if I do these things, or whatever that number is. So that's one thing you can start to do now. So you want to hone in on where that number is coming from and make sure that person's bringing that number into the clinic before you pay it out to them. Number 9, how do I discuss hearing aid prices? There's a variance, of course, and there's different levels of entry level to premium level instrument. The one thing I would suggest here, don't land on price. What do I mean by that? Anything in the world that you're buying, let's say you're buying a pizza, and you say, how much is the pizza? Oh, it's $40. Oh, if you end on what it costs, that always is a punch to the $40 for a pizza. That's really expensive. But if you don't land there, if you continue on, and as an example, our pizzas are $40, and the reason why, we use fresh tomatoes out of the garden. We have a garden in the back where we grow this, oregano, tomatoes. This is a handwritten recipe from Italy over the last 200 years. The crust we make is light, and it's fluffy and delicious and thick. It's going to be one of the best pizzas you ever had. Here's what our customers always tell us about our pizza. Now you have me going, $40 is a lot, but it sounds like it might be worth it. So same thing with hearing aids. And I'm making these numbers up again. How much are your hearing aids? They're $6,000 for 2. Wow, that's a lot of money. Versus they're $6,000 for 2. And the reason we're recommending these, when you came in, you mentioned you're having difficulty hearing in noisy environments, having a hard time hearing your grandkids, you and your wife are arguing. These will perform for you in all those aspects to help make things easier for you, to help them more clear. So yes, while they're expensive, what they're doing for you, the value they add makes up for it. So whatever your verbiage is going to be your verbiage. But the key to this is don't just land on price, because that always feels awful to people. Okay, number 8, the availability of online hearing instruments. Yeah, we certainly live in a world now, it's a click of a button and things will show up. So I want to share something with you that I learned from some clinicians in Vermont. And I love this. When they talk to their patients, they always tell them, for this to be successful, 4 things have to happen. And 2 of them are your responsibility and 2 of them are mine. And here's what they are. Number 1, you have to recognize you have a hearing loss. Number 2, you have to be motivated to do something about it. Now, the next 2 are on me. You have to have a hearing instrument that will work for you. And finally, you need a provider that will help you during this journey to make sure it's performing the way it should. So when you're looking at online instruments, one of those 4 things isn't going to happen. You don't have that provider helping you through this journey. You want to keep that in mind, because without those 4 things, this tends not to work. So the other thing you can talk about here too, ask the question, why were you looking there? Oh, they're less expensive. Okay, we can talk about price. Price is just one aspect of what we do, so don't let that be your determining factor. If at the end of this you decide you want the least expensive instrument, we can go to a lesser expensive instrument. But let's work together to make sure we have the best instrument for you so that you can reach your goals. And it's providing that service that makes people not want to order these online. Number 7, marketing has become less effective. Some ideas on this, and it's true. It used to be newspaper and radio and TV, and people are inundated with mailers and that sort of thing. So I'll share a story with you. I worked with a clinic years ago, and they were saying our marketing just doesn't work anymore. And so I challenged them and I said, okay, what makes you different? Like, what truly makes you unique? And not like we have great customer service, because a lot of places do. But what makes you unique? And she said to me, well, we've been in business for 25 years. That's one thing. So we came up with this marketing idea to sort of build around that, which was serving the community for 25 years. Come in and find out why. And that's all they sent out. So it wasn't about, buy one, get one free, get a free turkey, or, hearing now. Like, it wasn't any kind of like typical thing that people just throw away. It was very, very simple. ABC Clinic. We've been serving the community for 25 years. Come in and find out why. They had their best month, and it was in February, and it was in Michigan. So again, I'm not saying that's a magic bullet, but there are things to think about to be different. There's a clinic in Milwaukee. They printed up bookmarks, like old school bookmarks, had it laminated. On one side, it was fun facts about the ear. Things like, did you know the smallest bones in your body are in the ear? You have an eardrum, but don't hit it with a drumstick, whatever it was, with their logo and contact information. And on the flip side, they had more medical things. Dementia and Alzheimer's has been linked to untreated hearing loss. Untreated hearing loss leads to depression and isolation and can lead to falls, all these other things. They had 1,000 of these bookmarks for $100. They went to their local libraries, and we could talk more about that another time. But that was, again, it was creative, because their thinking was, who's going to libraries? Who has time to do it? Who doesn't have an e-reader? Typically elderly people. So a lot of their patient base would go. This clinic, in their first year of doing this, got 11 new patients. In their second year, they doubled that. So in 2 years, they had 35 new patients from a $100 investment. In addition to that, I know that Pivot has lots and lots of marketing ideas, and we can maybe talk about that at the end if we have some time. But there's so many things you can do to be different and set yourself apart so it's not the same old, and make marketing effective again. Number 6, no physician referrals. This is always tricky. I have some good friends who are family practitioners, and I said to them, how do people reach you? And they said, we get bombarded with this stuff all the time. Like, oh, come, we're local, we want to help. If I don't know you, I'm probably not going to refer people to you. All right. So what can we do? Like as an audiologist, what can I do if I have a practice to get you to refer to me? And I've got two very, very close friends who are practitioners and from different private practices. And they said to me two things. One is you can take something off of my plate. In other words, if you come to me and say, what are you doing to screen your patient's hearing? What are you doing for patients, with maybe onset of dementia? Did you know cognition and audition are linked? There's all that whole Achieve study that's out recently. But come up with some kind of one pager that talks about untreated hearing loss and the effects on a person beyond hearing loss. Depression, falls, we talk like come up with something so a physician can go, I have patients that are going through these things. I don't have time to test their hearing. I will now refer them to you. So that's one thing. The other thing you could do too is kind of find out about their practice. And you can also, as you go through your patient care, send a letter to the physician. Ask your patient, who's your family practitioner? I want to make sure they have a report of this. And then in the report, you can say, I tested Mr. Jones's hearing. This is what we found. We recommended hearing instruments. He's moving forward. He's not moving forward. Wanted to keep you track as an overall healthcare provider as we can network together. Send that letter out because that's an amazing thing too. Most clinics don't do that. So when a physician gets your letter and you do it consistently for every patient, they start to think, wow, okay, like you're kind of keeping me up to date. And even though you might not be top of mind, they will start to think of you. Oh yeah, who's that person who always sends me? I'm going to send people that way as well. So something to consider as far as physician referrals. We always want them. They're very, very difficult to get. Okay, differentiation from the competition. So what does make you different? It's sort of a rhetorical question, but I'm just going to sort of pose it to you. Maybe this is homework assignment number one. Think about after this webinar, or you can think about it now, what really makes you different? Like, what is it? Have you won some awards? Have you, like, what is it about you that would make people want to come to see you and not go someplace else? And really develop that and then develop some talking points around that. I think that could be really beneficial to you. Something you can do that I know of a clinic in Missouri that does this really well. Every patient that gets hearing instruments from them, they ask them, what made you decide to work with us? And they write down and it could be, oh, you're 2 minutes from where I live. You answered all my questions. You didn't make me feel old. Like whatever the patient says, you write it down. Something that clinic does very well with that information. Two things. One, we just talked about marketing a second ago. They use it in their marketing. And what they will do is say, here's what our patients say about us. So it's not here. Let me tell you what makes me different. It's here's what other people say who are just like you about what makes us different. And they market it that way. The other thing they do is when you get that patient of, okay, why should I get them here and not go someplace else and get them? Well, here's what our patients tell us, that we're conveniently located. We answer all their questions. We make them feel comfortable. Our prices are reasonable. Whatever that list is, you kind of go through. This is what our patients say about us. And if those things resonate with you, then you're in the right place. And of course, those things are going to resonate with people. But it all starts with thinking about what makes you different and then asking that question. You decided to get hearing instruments and we love working with you. What made you decide to work with us? And make a list of those things. OTCs, I think maybe this has died down a little, but I don't want to assume that. OTCs have not penetrated the market as was originally anticipated. So there's different schools of thought here. I'll just share my thought with you. And again, any of these thoughts that I'm sharing is not like, do this, what you're doing is wrong. That's not my approach at all. But I want to share things with you that I have learned has worked different places. But something that people have done is they've actually embraced it. And they will have some OTCs in stock. Now, your front office person can work with this. But the way you can do this to get patients in your door is to say, we offer all types of hearing care. We are a hearing care facility, and we care about all of our patients. You called asking about these over the counter, and they're less expensive. They are, but it takes a certain type of hearing loss to qualify to try them. The only way we can know if you qualify to try them, come in and get your hearing tested. When you do that, now you have them in your ecosystem. They're a patient of yours. And if it turns out that they do have a mild loss, have OTCs on hand. Like, you know what? Currently, you can try these. We would still recommend hearing instruments. They're more sophisticated. They're designed to help you more. But if you want to start here, we can certainly start here and try with these over the counters. So, there was such this, oh, it's going to change our business, it's going to ruin things. But people who embraced it have done really, really well to say, we offer every type of hearing care. Whatever your needs are, we will provide them for you, and we will always give you a professional opinion, and we will always be here for you throughout your journey. So, something to consider. Number 3, patients are slower to upgrade. Yeah, and especially like with the economy the way that it is, a lot of people are like, I'm going to hang on to these. They're 6 years old, but they're still working fine, and that's fine. What you can do, a couple of things here too. I would recommend if you have patients coming in who have hearing instruments that are 3 years or older, ask them the question, what do you like about your current instruments? And what could be better about them? So, I'm hearing conversations better and it's great. Yeah, sometimes restaurants are still a little bit tricky and the Bluetooth thing's a little wonky. Like whatever their answers are, I don't know what they're going to tell you, and nor do you. But you can then have the conversation around, every year something new gets released. Every manufacturer in March or April has this big convention and AAA, and something new comes out. And about every 3 years, it's sort of a wow, that's a bit of a change and a breakthrough. And you could even say things like, going from analog to digital, introducing Bluetooth technology, having rechargeable batteries. Every 3 years or so, something comes out that's really wow, that's a big change. Yours are 5 years old, which means you've missed at least one of those. Wow, that's a pretty big change. You may have missed more than one. Would you be opposed to listening to what is currently available? And let me know what you think. And if you kind of take that approach, you're not forcing it, it's time for new ones. It's more of most people notice a difference. There have been significant changes to our industry and breakthroughs in hearing care that could help you. You tell me. And if they come back and go, no, they sound the same, they probably don't. But what that's revealing to you is it's a patient who's not willing to spend that money. But if they say, yeah, I can hear the difference, then you can have that conversation of, yeah, a lot of people do. And as your healthcare provider, I don't want you to kind of just get by. I always want you to do the best you can be doing. So again, these are no magic bullets. These are no 100% guarantee it works. Not the deal. But when you have those patients who aren't willing to move, again, this has worked well. What do you like about your current instruments and what don't you like? And you can also remind them, remember 5 years ago when you got those, you almost didn't. You almost thought like, they're expensive. I remember that conversation I had with you. And aren't you glad you did? Look at all the things you just told me they're doing for you. The things that aren't working, again, with that breakthrough, that may be one of the things that the companies have focused on to help you better. The only way to know is to try it, compare, and let me know what you think. So that's an approach to talk to people. Number 2, big box. Yep, the Costco's and Sam's Clubs and that kind of thing. So a couple thoughts here. If someone says to you, I could go to Costco and get these for $1,500 cheaper. Like, why should I get them from you? I've seen people get sort of defensive, like, yeah, but here's what I want you to consider. If they've asked you that question, what they're essentially asking you is, what's your value? Because if all things were equal and Costco has them for $1,500 less, they would have just bought them from Costco. You wouldn't even have this conversation. But you are having this conversation. The patient is saying to you, they're cheaper there. Why should I get them from you? That is such an opportunity to, again, build that list of, look, what our patients tell us is we do A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. We also do X, Y, and Z, and that's what we'll do for you. And there's a value to that. It's more than just price. Yes, they are less expensive, but the value you get from the things I just mentioned that are specific to our clinic, that's where that value is. Another talk track that has worked quite well for a lot of clinicians who have been affected greatly by Costco is you can say to a patient, you're right, they are less expensive there, but we still stay in business, and we've been in business for 20 years, even though we're more expensive. Why do you think that is? And make them think like, yeah, geez, I guess you guys are still doing okay. And you cost, well, I don't know what that is. Well, let me talk to you about that if I can for a second, Mrs. Smith. Think about this. When you go to Costco, you're a customer and you walk in and let's say the number's arbitrary. Let's say you have $4,000 that you can spend. They don't care if you spend your $4,000 on a flat screen TV and a gas grill and a lawnmower and a bag of peanuts. They don't care because you're a customer. They offer lots and lots of things in the store. You come up, they ring you up, $4,000, please. Thanks, come back again. Here, you're not a customer, you're a patient. Here, we absolutely care what you spend that hard-earned $4,000 on because we don't offer TVs and grills and lawnmowers and marshmallows and peanuts and toilet paper and everything else. The only thing we do, the only thing we focus on is hearing healthcare. So you talk about why you should come here and not go there. There you're a customer buying commodities being rung up by a clerk. Here you're a patient in a medical health facility focused on only helping you hear better, communicate better, and have an easier life. So that's been a conversation that's made a lot of people sort of reevaluate. Yeah, you're right. I do go there for my hot dog rolls. Again, doesn't always work, but something to consider. And finally, number one, biggest fear, third-party referrals. Yeah, this is tough. It has certainly inundated our industry, and the landscape of audiology has changed tremendously. I have a few thoughts here, and I'll be excited to turn this over at the end back to Chelsea, because I know that they have some programs built in to talk about this. But for third-party referrals, from my vantage point, a couple things. Some people who've handled this well dedicate 2 days a week to third-party referrals. In other words, 3 days are private pay and only 2 are third party. So if someone is coming in as, Medicare Plus, we can see you Tuesdays and Fridays. Those are the days. Like, don't fill up your schedule entirely with third-party referrals because it'll eat you up. Dedicate 2 days to doing that and keep 3 days open for your private pay. Another one, get those physician referrals. Get that marketing going, because if you do that, you rely less on these third-party referrals. If you have found you are in a position where that's all I'm seeing anymore, something you can talk about is you can say, okay, you have this benefit. It's really a discount program more than it is my insurance covers this. So while we don't take that Medicare Plus, if you don't, we can try to honor that discount for you. And I'll talk to you about if we can find something where the price is the same, why it's still an advantage to go through us. And the reasons are, there are often front-end charges and back-end charges. And what I mean by that, with us, if we are going to sell these to you for X amount of money, you also get a year of follow-up. You get batteries. You get, whatever things you offer from your clinic. There, they kind of nickel and dime you. Every time you come in after the second time, it's $50. If you need, wax traps, it's $20. They keep sort of nickel and diming you. And that's what I mean by those back-end charges. So again, with us, everything you pay for is up front. We're not going to keep hammering you as you go back and go back. When it comes down to that price, let me see what I can do to come as close as I can. We'll offer you a discount, even though it won't be through your insurance. So that's been one way to do that. But you have to be careful too, because if that Medicare Plus company, whoever it may be, referred that patient directly to you, they can get a little angry that you're trying to take them out of that. So it's kind of a fine line and a slippery slope. So if they have sent that patient to you, that's one thing. If the patient comes in on their own and says, I have an insurance, I think I have a discount, that's where you can kind of talk about, yeah, it's a discount. Let's kind of see what we can do, because getting something's better than getting nothing. My thoughts. So those are the 10 things that scare everybody. Let's take a moment, and I want to share this with you too, and I hope this is helpful. I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 years ago, I was at this seminar, and this researcher looked at audiology. I was fascinated by this. And what they did was they looked at clinics across the country. So LA and New York to Paducah, Kentucky to, Youngstown, Ohio, everything in between. private practices, ENT, hospital, universities, not-for-profit, like every type of clinic you could look at, they did this research. And here's what they found. The average clinical productivity, and before I go through these numbers, and maybe you're already doing it, I like showing this as you look at this to kind of think to yourself, how do I compare? Am I doing better? Am I doing the average? Am I doing worse? Maybe these are areas I can improve. So consider that as we go through. So with 1,000 potential patients, 93% of the calls are answered. I'm not going to read through all of it. You'll see how this works. So now you're down to 930. Of those, 25 of them make an appointment. You see the number. You always get no-shows. So as you kind of keep dwindling down, 40% help ratio is average across the country. 78% of people are binaural fittings. 10% return rate is on average. Average selling price is $2,000. When you dwindle all that down, average clinical productivity in the United States, starting with 1,000 potential patients, your revenue is going to be $148,000. Now, again, you might look at this like, my return rate's 2%. That's great. But maybe you're thinking, my help ratio, my closing rate, it's 30. That could be a place you can kind of pick up. But on average, 1,000 potential patients, a clinic will make $148,000. Okay, so I like math, kind of a weird thing, but it's true. I do. So after attending this talk, I went through the machination of thinking, what if every single one of these improved just by a little bit, like by a couple percent? Nothing like, I'm going to go from 78 to 98, like 78 to 80. Like, what if every one of these just had a little shift throughout? And here's how that turned out. So from 93 to 95, from 28 to 30, as you go down the list and you increase your average selling price to $2,200, that same 1,000 potential patients, if you increase each one of these KPIs, your revenue is $336,600, which is a difference $188,600 per year. Here's average. Here's a little more than average, a little better than average in every category. What a difference that makes. So the same 1,000 potential patients, you could make an extra almost $200,000 a year if you could increase those things. That takes me all the way back to our number 10. My employees want more money. I can't afford it. These are the types of things I talk about. Look at their numbers. If we could boost you up a little bit, then yes, you're going to make money because, darn it, I'm going to make an extra 200 grand. I'm happy to give you a raise of $30,000. Like, you could blow them away, have loyalty from them forever, because again, now they're LeBron. They're filling that gap for you. So I'm going to turn to questions, and I'm going to say thank you, and I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And before I do, Chelsea, I hope you'll be willing to kind of talk about some of the things Pivot offers, because I know firsthand you guys do a lot with physician marketing. You can look at those sort of KPIs. You can help a practice dig into, because again, as a practitioner, I might think, I don't know how to do any of that. But you may be able to help them dig into, these are the KPIs, these are the percentages, so you can have those conversations with your employees, or as you interview people, you can track all of those things so you're being as productive as you possibly can. So I don't know if there were any questions in the chat, if any questions came up. But Chelsea, I will turn it over to you. And
thanks, David.
Yeah.
For some reason, it won't let me share my video. We were having that issue earlier, so you guys will have to bear with me. I'm here. So thank you so much. I thought that was just awesome. And to reiterate what David said, if you have any questions that haven't been asked yet, go ahead and drop those in the Q&A. I'll spend just a minute here. I know we're already over time, so I won't make this too long here, but just a minute talking a little bit about some of the things that David mentioned that our team here at Pivot Hearing can help with, that tie right into the different things that he was discussing that we know are keeping audiologists and practice owners up at night. So I'm going to try to share my screen here, and hopefully this will be successful. David, can you see my screen?
I can, yeah.
Okay, great. This is My Vitals Pro, which is an interactive KPI dashboard that our team's developed over the last 2 years. And it's only one component of what we do here at Pivot Hearing, but I wanted to bring it up because it is foundational to a lot of the work that we do here at Pivot, because in essence, what this dashboard does is take all of the thousands or tens of thousands of rows of data that you're generating every day by running your practice using your office management system, be it Counselor, Blueprint, Cycle, Tim's, whatever you might use. And we're automatically able to create this dashboard every single night while you're asleep, so that when you wake up in the morning, you know what's happening in your business. And by no means am I going to show you every last little bit of it, but I wanted to show you a couple little things that tie right into what David was talking about today. And actually, just as of yesterday, there's a brand new KPI here in My Vitals Pro that we just added called upgrade interval. And one of the things that David mentioned was not upgrading your patients, at a quick enough clip, and how that can really hold you back, and where for a lot of practices, this is a big opportunity area. So this is one thing we just put in here, which is basically looking at, of the patients that you've sold a hearing aid to more than once, what is the average amount of time that transpires between there? There's another place here in MVP that you can look at it as well. So not only can you look at how, sorry, having this little stormy today, little Wi-Fi issues here, but not only can you look at this for your own practice and how you're performing over time relative to yourself, you can also see how you're performing relative to the data set. There's close to 500 clinics in the data set here now. So, understanding where you land on, by the way, a ton of different KPIs, but this upgrade interval specifically can help you understand whether, relatively speaking, you're doing a good job upgrading your patients at the clip that you should, or that you're not. And if you are, awesome, keep it up. And if you're not, there's a number of different ways that our team can help you understand why, and hopefully make some, like David said, small changes that lead to very big results in the bottom line. Another thing that David mentioned was physician referral marketing. That is something that we believe in so highly here at Pivot Hearing. It's one of those things that is relatively inexpensive to do, but hard in that it requires, focus, attention, and most importantly, consistency. But practices who are able to do that and do it well over time see amazing results from it. So in MVP, we look at things like new patients scheduled, opportunities, and revenue from the various referral sources. There's ways to look at how those are changing over time to understand what's working, what's not, and even ways that you can drill down into the data to understand specifically what's driving results in your practice. So you can look at your revenue, you can look at it by clinic location, you can look at it by referral source, and you can even drill down to sub-referral source so that you can understand which physicians are referring, which are not, and where you may need to tweak or adjust your physician referral marketing program. We have an amazing person on our team who specializes in purely physician referral marketing, who can help you create a program from scratch if it's not something you're doing today, or just sort of update and improve the one that you already have. I'll just say one more thing here. David talked a little bit about third parties and managed care. I think for, at least 3/4 of the practices I talk to all the time, it's their number one concern and fear. And I think that's well-founded. So that's another focus for our team, not only within MVP and allowing you to understand exactly what's happening in your business in terms of TPA and how growth in TPA is affecting your revenue per hour and other important things for the profitability of your clinic. But we're able to look at it from a market perspective as well. Each market, each practice, each clinic, they're all different, right? And there isn't necessarily a one size fits all answer to, should I participate with TPAs, which ones, or should I not participate? And how do I then combat that factor in the marketplace? And so we have access to a ton of data here that allows you to understand what's actually available in your market, what you're already capturing, and where the opportunity is. We also have our Access Hearing program, which is a program we've developed that enables private practices to really fight back against the TPAs. So like David said, if you're working with the plans and they're referring you patients, you kind of got to play by the rules if you want those referrals to continue. But for all those other patients that are finding you these other ways, right, that we looked at, be it physician referral, online patient referral, word of mouth, advertising, these are dollars you've spent. There's, these are your patients. And so having a really compelling alternative that you can offer in-house that allows you to keep that patient direct with you and not have to reverse refer to a TPA can be just a game changer for the profitability of your practice. So I could go on and on and on, and I'm not going to right now, but I just wanted to kind of tie back in a few of the things that David had mentioned and the ways that our team loves to really dive in, look at the data, help practice owners understand where the opportunity is in their practice, and then and then, make changes. Like David said, sometimes very small changes in this business can go a long way and have big effects on the top line and or the bottom line. So that's what we're all about. So I'm gonna stop talking. We have a couple questions here. One of them is there an additional charge to use My Vitals Pro? It's a great question. Pivot Hearing members get access to the tool at no charge, which is great. Then you have the ability to look at this data daily if you so choose. Also, our team looks at it very regularly, again, in preparation to look at your business and help you make decisions. So it's free of charge to Pivot members. For people who are not Pivot members, there is a way to pay for it on a monthly subscription. So if anyone's interested in that, can simply reach out to us. My email is chelsea@pivothearing.com, and I'm happy to talk with you about the different options. There's one other question here. David, this is for you. So this question is, there was a lot of things you talked about here today. If you had to suggest one thing for a practice to start with or focus on, is there one of those recommendations you made that you think can be most effective and impactful, quickly?
Yeah, to me, I think it's always kind of keeping in mind where the patient's coming from. If they're talking about price, it's kind of taking a step back and really developing what makes you different, and like focusing on learning from people. Why did you choose us? I think if you do that, those conversations become a lot easier. The other thing too that I want to say in closing, Chelsea, and thank you for showing this. Like, I hope that this talk helped jumpstart a few ideas of like, I am gonna like track my productivity so I could talk to my employees. I am going to find out from my patients what we do well. Like, I hope that jumpstarts things, but honestly, God, I'm so old and so old school. Like, I'm not like, let me trick it. Like, the truth is, this is freaking awesome. This My Vitals Pro. Like, honestly, if you are thinking I'm going to jumpstart this, like, really reach out, because I think there's a lot of really cool information and data that you guys can build here to make your life easier. So like, that's not like a sales pitch. That's just like my reaction to seeing what Chelsea just showed and knowing what I know about like the nightmares that clinicians go through to keep their business running. So yeah, start asking people why you, start thinking of the list of why you, develop those conversations so they're smoother and easier and it's unique. It's not just, we have great customer service. And really, I would dive into data to make your case that much stronger. That's my takeaway.
Awesome. Thanks, David. We did have one more question pop in here that I can answer. This person said, can you talk about the Access Hearing program? So yes, I'm happy to describe it quickly here, and then happy to go into whatever level of detail you'd like, offline on a one-on-one. But the Access Hearing program is a program we developed back in 2021. And it was simply because, the hundreds of practice owners that we're talking to all the time, everybody had the same chief complaint, right? I'm losing to third party. I'm drowning in TPA. It used to be 5% of my business. This year it's 30%, which, by the way, this is kind of interesting. If you guys can still see my screen here, you can look, let me close this, but across the 500 clinics that are in the MVP data set, 29% of the units year to date are TPA. So that's very different from, those of us who've been in business 5 years, 10 years, 15 years or more, have experienced this big change. So we developed that program to really give practice owners some power to compete with what the TPA plans are offering. So the program in a nutshell, it includes a lot of different things. There are patient-facing placemats, provider-facing materials around how to talk about TPAs and how to talk about price and how to compare your direct offerings with TPA plans and what questions to ask. So we have lots of guidance for you and your team members around how best to implement the program, because you obviously need to be careful. You don't want to implement a program that suddenly just replaces all of the high-end premium sales, right? So there's a time and a place to use a program like this. Of course, a prerequisite for any kind of program like this is very competitive cost of goods. So that's part of the program as well. We have relationships with almost all of the major manufacturers who offer premium and advanced products at very, very competitive prices, and along with terms that compete well with the third parties. So things like 3-year warranties and things like that. There's different ways to implement the program that we can discuss with you. There's bundled models, there's unbundled models, and a lot of different ways to skin the cat, if you will. So that's something that our team can work with you with, one-on-one, understand what you're doing today, ideally get your data and MVP, understand the effect that TPAs are having on your practice specifically, as well as your market specifically, and then put together a plan for kind of how to push back a little bit. And then, you know, in a perfect world, over time, work with fewer TPAs. I think that's most private practice owners' goals. We don't take a moral stance. You know, we want you to be successful and achieve your goals, but for most people, their goal is to have more private pay business. And that's what we'll work closely with you to do through the Access Hearing program and through developing your business in organic ways where you own the patient. So hopefully that answers your question. But again, I'm happy to talk more about it another time. Okay, we are 15 minutes over. I think we've answered most of the questions I saw pop in. So if anyone else has any questions, feel free to reach out. You can get a hold of us at pivothearing.com. Or like I mentioned, my email is chelsea@pivothearing.com. I can also get you in touch with David if you have any additional questions for him at any time. He's a wonderful asset. So thanks so much for being here today, David. And thank you everyone for attending. And we will look forward to hopefully talking to you all soon. And have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.